Namaste. We are here in this webinar session to examine certain facets of how Lord Yama answered the question of Nachiketa in the Kathopanishad. Nachiketa's question was about whether there is anything beyond death. Though he used the expression beyond death, by context it is clear he was asking if there is some truth beyond even the transmigrating soul. When the physical body falls, you have a transmigrating soul, Sansari Atma, and about that Sansari Atma, Nachiketa has no doubt, as is evident from his second question or the second boon for which he had asked, where he explicitly talks about the soul going to heaven and such things. So in the third question, when he says, is there something beyond death? What is meant is beyond the individual existence, beyond the sense of the self that we normally perceive, which is associated with not only the body but with indriyas, with manas, and so on. As most of you may be aware, Nachiketa was given 3 boons, and it is in the third boon that he asks for the highest wisdom of the self, Atma-jnana. And he asks that initially in a little crude language, in the very second, not even second, in the very first valli of the first chapter, Nachiketa asks in the 20th verse of first chapter, first valli, Ye yam prete vichikitsa manushye astityeke nayamastiti chaike etad vidyam anushishtastvayaham varanam esha varastratiyaha. Esha tratiyaha varaha. I am asking for the third boon here. Some people say something remains, some people say nothing remains when this one goes. And this one here, once more, is when even the mind and intellect and all these conditionings are put to an end. This becomes more clear when Nachiketa asks the same question later on in 14th mantra of the second valli of the first chapter. That is very philosophically expressed. Anyatra dharmad, anyatra adharmat, anyatra asmat, krita akritat, and so on. He wishes to know, he rephrases his question. The very third boon is asked for in a new language, and he says, is there something beyond good and bad, beyond cause and effect, beyond past, future, and present? That is how we would interpret the mention of the third boon as relating to the transcendental self, the transmigratory self, which also is apparently eternal. It doesn't die, When the body dies, it doesn't die, it takes another body and then another body. It also apparently is beginningless and endless. I am saying apparently because it has numerous sad limitations. When this Sansari Atma also ends, thanks to the awakening, thanks to the enlightenment, the pure self, the non-transmigratory self, Asansari Atma, is realized. And Nachiketa is asking about it, and Yama dissuades him in various ways only to test, only to check whether the 14-year-old boy is really keen on gaining the highest knowledge. So, in this webinar, we want to know whether Yama really answered or went round and round, beating around the bush, indulging in poetry and metaphors and literary beautiful expressions and so on. Or he really answered. We say that there are more than 20, if not even more, mantras which can be understood as answering the question without beating around the bush. First of all, Yama says in the 15th mantra of the second Valli, well, what you have asked for is something that all the Vedas talk about, something for which people perform great tapas, take up austerities, something for which people live in tremendous self-control, brahmacharya. And let me tell you briefly, and he says, Yama says, it is no other than Om. This is a direct answer, but I do admit, by saying it is Om, he is not really pointing to its nature. What is this Om? Om could be just a sound to many people, though it is really much more. Most people understand it as a sound, a sacred sound. However, that sacred sound is a pointer to our true nature. Therefore, going further, we find that Yama takes up a pretty detailed discussion or presentation of the pure self. He first clears the ground for Nachiketa and through Nachiketa for all of us, not to make this pure self a matter of mere logical conclusion. Therefore, there is a powerful mantra which has the main sentence Naisha tarkena matirapaneya. Esha matihi, this understanding of who we are is not reachable by mere logic or this activity of thought which indulges in conceptualizing things that are in time, that are in space, that have some boundaries. This activity of thought cannot ever know the pure self. Naisha tarkena matirapaneya prokta anyenaiva sujnanaya preshta. O most dear one, only when this is conveyed by someone other than oneself who has an intuitive insight into this truth, who is not stuck with mere words or thoughts, when taught by such a person, the student who also has to be ready, who also has to be receptive with number of divine qualities, the student can see this truth. So it is not a matter of mere logic. In the second valli of the very first chapter, there is a mantra which says, now coming closer to what exactly the self is and where exactly the self is, the mantra 1 to 12, that is first chapter, second valli, 12th mantra says, Tam durdarsham gudham anupravishtam guhahitam gahvareshtam puranam adhyatma yogadi gamena devam matva dhiro harsha shokau jahati. A brave, wise student gaining an insight into her own or his own true nature, the pure self, goes beyond not just sorrow, goes beyond even happiness caused by external factors. She or he establishes oneself in the uncaused bliss of the pure self. But where is that pure self? Guhahitam, Durdarsham, Gudam. It's in the cave of our own heart. It's within ourselves. It is hard to know, but with proper preparation, with focus, with enough of detachment, we can certainly gain it. As Bhagavad Gita would give three criteria, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparaha sanyatendriyaha. Have faith, be intent upon gaining this highest wisdom, and have self-control. Shraddha, Tatparata, and Sanyama are mentioned in Gita chapter 4. Now the key word in this mantra is Adhyatma Yoga Adhigama. This word Adhyatma Yoga itself is suggestive. It gives a clear idea that we need to look inward. Adhi Atma, look inward. Don't look somewhere else. Adi Shankara, however, gives the explanation. What is this Adhyatma Yoga? We have heard of Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and so on. There is one more yoga apparently, Adhyatma Yoga. It is not one more. It is the inner chamber of all these yogas. No matter what path, what discipline, what system you take, as you advance, you come to Adhyatma Yoga. And that is, as per Adi Shankara, Vishayebhyaha Pratisamhritya Chetasaha Atmani Samadhanam. Adhyatma Yoga. Chetasaha, of Chetas, the mind, Samadhanam, fixing, placing, positioning. Our mind goes normally to outer objects, people to whom we are attached or people to whom we are averse, or sometimes to our own fancies, our own ideas, things that we fear, things that we are attracted to in our own world of imagination. Leave them all, pratisamhritya, take the mind back, withdraw the mind, atmani samadhanam, fix it in the pure self, the witness. How do we fix it? How do we contemplate on the self? That is where a detailed study of Upanishad is required. We are going to cite a few mantras which actually provide those details. If somebody says, this is impossible, for the pure self has no name, no form, no shape, no color, how can we fix our mind in the pure self? All this is answered. In fact, it is through certain subtle pointer, and then to make that pointer work effectively, a number of negations are made. The negation is to say the pure self is not this, not that, and so on. For example, You have in the first chapter, second well, only 18th mantra, Najayate mriyate va vipaschit. Vipaschit, this intelligence principle has no birth, no death. So knowing that this has no birth and no death, we are to dismiss the physical body from being a candidate. It's not the body. I am not this body. The body is born, the body dies. I am something subtler than this. That is conveyed by Najayate, Mriyate, Va, Vipaschit, and a few other pointers there. In the third valli of the very first chapter, Lord Yama points to this pure self, the Atma, which is above even the Sansari Atma. For the Sansari Atma, which leaves one body at the time of the clinical death and eventually gets another body, you can pray. You should pray. May that soul have Sadgati. May it reach good regions. May it reach peaceful places. May it have happiness, peace. When someone dies, you pray, and that prayer is meant for that Sansari Atma, the transmigrating self. The Upanishads talk about the pure self, which is no mover, no traveler. It's not a principle that goes from one loka to another. It is all pervasive. It has no boundaries. So the two mantras that I am referring to is where Lord Yama says there are these levels of our own existence, and he says, for example, that there are the sense objects and then there are the indriyas which perceive the sense objects. Let me recite those two mantras. Yes, here. Indriyebhya parahi arthah arthebhyascha param manah manasastu para buddhihi buddheratma mahan parah mahata paramavyaktam avyaktat purushat parah purushanna parang kinchit sakashta sa paragatihi. Sense objects, they are superior to the sense objects are in this context employing a certain logic. Sense objects are superior to even sense organs. Elsewhere it is said sense organs are superior to sense objects. But here, objects, arthaha, indriyebhyaha, paraha. Then higher or subtler is mind, and more subtle is buddhi. Then the total mind or total intellect. Then there is the unmanifest. There are many levels. But the subtlest, most sukshma is Purusha, which is no other than the asansari Atma. And emphatically, Yama says about this Purusha, Sa Kashta, that is the ultimate. Sa Paragati, that is the supreme truth. In this way, one is guided. If you and I go by this guidance, get enough clarity by discussing with the teacher, and then we do the job. We should do what Adi Shankara explained Adhyatma Yoga as Vishayebhyaha Pratisamhritya Chetasaha Atmani Samadhanam. Study and this inward movement have to go together. If we don't study, if we say enough of these books, I've heard enough of these lectures, I'm just going to meditate. Sorry, very soon you will forget the subtle pointers that were given in the classes. You will make your meditation into a dull and drab, will-based exercise, lacking in intelligence. Mere will cannot take you to the higher state. The classes, the discussions, the study gives you a higher outlook. But unless you are careful, you withdraw your mind from wasteful thoughts. Despite your lofty studies, your actual life will not have the shine of spiritual maturity. Therefore, there are things to do on your own, things to gather, to gain, to collect from satsanga, from pravachanas, from classes, etc. So, giving this hierarchy, sense objects, senses, mind, intellect, total intellect, the unmanifest, etc., etc., and saying the pure self is the highest principle, we would say that is also a powerful pointer. In fact, I will now share with you 3 pointers which are enough for this session. 3 pointers in 3 mantras coming in succession, one after another. 213, 214 and 215. Let's see what is 213. That is 213 once more. 2 is chapter 2, 1 is Valli and 3 is mantra number. So 213, it says Yena Rupam Rasam Gandham Shabdan Sparshanscha Maithunan Etenaiva Vijanati Kimatra Parishishyate Etadvaitat. The pointer here is, in some ways, there cannot be anything more simple than this. Yena Rupam Rasam Gandham Vijanati. We see names and forms, colors, all of us see. We taste sweet, salty, sour, etc. We hear sounds, shabdam. We smell various odors. We do all this. The Upanishad says the inmost truth of your existence is that which makes possible this knowing. It is the knowing principle, but not bound by the limitations of any particular experience. Etenaiva vijanati. It is thanks to the pure self that all this knowledge takes place. But the limitations of these specific forms of knowledge do not apply to the pure self. Therefore, we use the Sanskrit word Atma is of the nature of Chaitanya. Chaitanya means consciousness, pure consciousness. The next mantra says it's not just pure consciousness that operates through the senses, but it is also one, it is the light that illumines the entire waking state, the entire dream state, and the deep sleep state. Avastatraya is touched upon in the Kathopanishad by Lord Yama in this mantra, the mantra 2 in the set of 3, which is 214. Swapnantam jagaritantam cha ubhau yenanupashyati. Ubhau, both. Well, there are 3 states of experience. Why are only 2 mentioned? Please note, in advanced consideration, waking and dream both are one bunch. Call it Jagarita. Because Swapna is no different from Jagarita, dream. And swapna, the word swapna can point to sushupti. How can three become two? Very simple. In both waking and dream, we have names and forms. We have sound, smell, touch, space, time, distance. All that is in waking, all that is in dream. Therefore, waking and dream are together and deep sleep is another. Therefore, ubhav. Swapnantam jagaritantam ubhav yena anupashyati mahantam vibhumatmanam matva dhiro na shochati. A brave, wise person, dhiraha is brave, gutsy, fearless, also intelligent. There are gutsy, fearless people in this world who are not intelligent. They react or they are caught in some narrow ideal. They are caught in some ism, some school of thought, and they show their bravery in defense of their school and against another school. They don't have a broad-minded approach where they take all life as worthy, all as lovable. They are divisive. So that kind of courage, that kind of bravery will not take us to the pure self. It can help us handle other things in life. In some dangerous situation, somebody with lot of courage may not be very intelligent. She or he meets with the danger. With chest up, she or he will talk to a robber, to a wicked man with a gun in hand maybe. But that person doesn't qualify. This bravery is not enough for Upanishadic realization. Therefore, we translate the word dhira, brave and wise, brave and intelligent. Swapnantam jagaritantam ubhav yena anupashyati mahantam vibhumatmanam matva dhiro na shochati. We can go beyond all sorrow. Shochati means one grieves. Na shochati, one doesn't anymore grieve. How? By knowing that light which illumines waking, dream, and deep state. And lastly, the third pointer for this treatment, there are many more pointers in the Kathopanishad, but we will conclude with the third pointer. The fifth mantra in that very second chapter, first valli, so 2 and 5 goes, Yaimam madvadam veda atmanam jivamantikat ishanam bhuta bhavyasya tato nad vijugupsate. Etadvaitat. Emphatically, Lord Yama says, this is it. What? It is that truth, knowing which, na tato vijugupsate. One does not have any more of insecurity, any more of fear, dislike, disgust, any more of tendency to run away from something. All that is meant by the word vijugupsa. Na tato vijugupsate. What is that? It is pointed out as ya imam madvadam devam. Madhu means honey. So if you take this mantra literally, the pure self is something that constantly drinks honey. So one of you may say, this is the sweet verse I like, drinking honey. But honey is not to be taken literally here. Madhu atti iti madvadaha. Literally, one who eats honey or one who drinks honey is madvada. But the reference in the context is the principle that seems to be bhokta, seems to be the enjoyer in a wide range of pleasure and pain. We enjoy certain food, we suffer certain other food. We feel happy in some circumstances, we feel depressed in other. So who is it who feels happy or sad? Who is it who enjoys or suffers? That is called bhokta. For simplicity, we call that principle enjoyer. It is both enjoyer and sufferer. The principle behind this principle, therefore, from the Vedantic light, we would say the principle which seems to be the enjoyer but is not. Likewise, Ishanam Bhuta Bhavyasya. There is a certain existential principle in us which seems to be caught, which seems to be bound or bounded by past, future, and present, by the divisions of time, seems to be, but which really is Ishana, is the Lord of time. The Lord is not bound. Ishana means the Lord, the ruler. The ego is ruled by time. The pure self rules over time. It is the ruler. In this way, in the set of three mantras, we have number one, it is that which illumines Rupa, Rasa, Gandha and so on. Number two, it is that which lights up waking, dream and deep sleep. And number three, it is that which apparently enjoys and suffers but really has no enjoyership, no sufferership, no kartritva, no bhoktritva, and it has no boundaries of time by implication of space and so on. There are more and more pointers. Therefore, Upanishads are such sources of wisdom that they need to be studied again and again. In the beginning, one gets a rough idea. In fact, one may get inspired by some metaphors and some beautiful expressions, some motivational punchlines. But the crux of the Upanishads is not motivation into some kind of action. It is freedom. It is liberation. Then action proceeds like a corollary follows a theorem. When you are free of fear, you will of course do wonderful things. When you are full of love, you will of course do action. You will do wonderful things. In fact, actions or work that comes from love and fearlessness are really the worthy actions. All other action which may impress us for a while, pretty soon are discovered to be having their own problems because they are emanating from fear. They are emanating from insecurity. People do work for name, fame, for becoming wealthy. In other words, all that work has some selfishness behind it. Whereas when the Upanishadic wisdom frees you from insecurity, frees you from selfishness, nobody should imagine we would become idle. The one who is freed from fear becomes more dynamic than ever before. But the beauty of it is not in the quantity of work, it is not the number of people whom she meets, it is not the number of places where he goes. Rather, the person who is illumined, quantity wise, may or may not be recognized by others, but the work that is done by the illumined person is of far greater value than the noisy workers of the world who seem to solve a problem, but upon closer examination, they generate more problems than what they solved. So, all this needs the understanding. One who sees, others miss it out. So, in conclusion, we may say that in several ways, employing several forms of language, the teacher here, Lord Yama, points to the pure self which is unborn, which is of the nature of Sat, Chit and Ananta. And if I may quickly mention one more, because I said there are many other ways, just to give one more example. At another place, Lord Yama says, this body of ours is like a city of 11 gates, and seated in the city of 11 gates, like a king seated in a palace, for whose happiness dances take place, and commanders and generals and ministers and scholars and singers and so on, all of them come and present what they have to present before the king. Puramekadashadwaram ajasya vakrachetasaha. There is a mantra, and that mantra says that is the nature of your existence. You truly are not a loser, not a winner. You truly are a winner in the realist, in the most real sense of the term. You are above all these ordinary passing show of win and loss. In this way, Lord Yama, of course, has answered the question of Nachiketa. Let's pause here and I welcome questions as we always do. Oh, let's see. So, let's see if someone has raised his or her hand. I see one hand raised. Let me see whether there are other hands too. Okay. Let's hear the question by Manmohan Pejawar. Yes, Pejawar ji.
Yes, Hari Om Swamiji, thank you. And as always, it was very enjoyable, and you always learned something new. Like you say, we keep forgetting things we even heard yesterday, and let alone the lectures we might have heard a long time ago. I have one basic question. When you were describing the true self, it looks to me like it is really a description of Om itself. What Yama is saying, Lord Yama is saying, is true self is almost equivalent to Brahman or Om, that is the supreme being. And
Yeah.
that means you are a chip of the old block, as they say.
Okay.
When you are
Yeah.
born in this world, you
Yeah.
bring a piece of that, and when you merge, you take it
Yeah.
back where you came from. Is that
Yeah.
true? Then true self is Atma and Paramatma. Atma is like a mini me of Paramatma that we don't realize exist within us, and we
Yeah.
have these abilities that come. We are blessed with that, but we most of the time don't even realize we have that power to make our own life heaven or hell in this own earth by realizing,
Mm.
and even in the afterlife. Uh, am I right in that fact that Om and pure self of each individual are very, very similar? Maybe there is a slight, subtle difference that I might not have grasped.
Om and the self in everyone are the same. Is that the
Same.
question? Yeah, that is what Yama says.
So,
The pure self in every one of us may be called Om, and really they are not many. There is only one. It's like space. Space
yes,
is one. Suppose you have a piece of land 60 feet by 40 feet. Now that is that space. If you make a house that has 8 rooms, you start talking about 8 rooms. And one day after 10 years, you demolish that house. You make a house with only 3 rooms. You talk of 3 rooms. Whether there were 3 rooms or 8 rooms, space was the same, and space did not get cut. Space did not get divided. See, the point is, apart from this analogy, technically, we are so used to imagining everything as bound by space and time, and we bring that to our understanding of the pure self. But the Upanishads are never tired of saying to us that this pure self, of which the name is Om, it is Brahman, it is Atman, it is one only. The Upanishads are never tired of saying that this one truth, which is Brahman, which is Atman, has actually no plurality. It has no boundary of space. It has no boundary of time. Therefore, we need to think out of box. Drop this idea of my Atma and her Atma, your Atma, his Atma. That my Atma, her Atma, your Atma applies to Samsari Atma, as I clarified in the lecture. A transmigratory soul is different in each person. But there is a level of transcendence. Then once you reach that level where you transcend the plurality, in me, in you, in her, in him, in an ant, in an elephant, everywhere, there is only one truth. So it is Om. It is the pure self. We are not talking of the Sansari Atma.
Yes, and is that just one more follow-up? Then would that process, in other words, when one dies and transmigratory soul takes place, but
Yeah.
ultimate union with the Brahman, is
Correct.
is that, it may be crude in my asking that way, but is it automatic, or is that requires some effort on a transmigratory soul even to do that? Is that, I would think it would be automatic from that point of
It
once
is
you shed
automatic.
your body.
It is automatic following the dawn of right knowledge. The
So you
dawn of right
attain
knowledge.
that
Yeah.
in your own life if you attain that knowledge. That means self self-realization is basically God realization and one and the same.
Right. They are one and the same.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Swamiji.
Right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now let's see. Okay. I think there is a text question. I will come to that. Yes, there is one text, that is written question by Dayanand Gumi. Oh, it's not a question. It just says, my pranams to Swamiji. Okay. My pranams to you too. We are both the same self. Now we come back. There is a raised hand. And we go to Purna Rao. Oh, again, I'm unable to enable the mic. Trying. It becomes blue, then again becomes red. Now it is, yeah. Can you speak?
Yes. Namaste, Swamiji, and good evening.
Namaste. Good
Uh,
evening.
I have become a little confused about this samsari self and the pure self, and there's a question which
Yeah.
I have written down, and it
Yeah.
relates to the first caller who said, now, does the samsari self have limitations and a lot of flaws and defects which it has to overcome before it sort of merges with the pure self?
Yes,
Because
yes.
And how do we
See,
overcome these? That is the question.
yes, that is what sadhana is all about. So there is, let's take an analogy. There is the sun in the sky, and your granddaughter takes a little mirror and reflects the sun up in the sky through a beam and makes that beam move left to right and up and down inside your house. She is standing in the angan, in the courtyard. Now please see, samsari atma is like that reflected circle that falls upon your wall, which is moving left to right, top to bottom. But yeah, the source of that is the one sun up in the sky. He is not moving. Even as your granddaughter moves the mirror and makes the bright spot go from left to right on the wall. See, there is samsara is movement. There is a moving disk of light and the unmoving sun up in the sky. Likewise, you and I, in our present state of consciousness, in the present state of our erroneous knowledge, we think that we are rising or falling, gaining health or losing health, gaining wealth or losing wealth. And it continues upon after death also. The samsari atma in heaven, in some other world, or upon being born again in another place. The story continues. Now, one point you said, this merging in that. All that language, okay, we admit in one way. But really speaking, the samsari atma is not real. The real one is ever free. Just as my favorite example is, you take a pencil, put it in a glass of water, and the pencil looks bent because of
Yes.
refraction. Now, if somebody says, when you gain right knowledge, you study physics and gain right knowledge, then this bent pencil merges in the straight pencil.
Yes.
There is no such thing. The pencil never got bent, but it appeared bent. Likewise, Shankara's interpretation of Upanishads is that there is an erroneous perception, and then the erroneous perception, unlike the rope and snake, where both rope and snake are outside, here the error includes your idea of who you are. Your idea of who you are is part of the error.
Oh.
When you mistake a rope for a snake, nothing happens to you. You remain Purna. Purna saw the snake before, and when she turned the torch on, she saw the rope. So what was mistaken to be snake later was discovered to be a rope, but Purna remained Purna only. In the case, the limitation of that analogy. In the case of this awakening, this Jnanodaya, you not only see the world in a different way, you understand yourself also to be the changeless Brahman. So asamsari atma is what you discover upon waking up from this dream.
Oh, I see.
Samsari atma is like within one life you get promotion, you move to a bigger house, then alas, you fall sick, you get admitted to hospital, all these things happen. Such things happen over many lives also. Samsari Atma's biography. Samsari Atma is ever free. It is to be recognized by right seeing. Like, therefore I brought the pencil. The pencil was never bent. You don't straighten it by studying physics. By studying physics, you don't straighten the pencil. You only know that this pencil never got bent. That's how it is. You also may ask a question. There is some audience here, I am telling them.
Thank you very much, Swamiji.
Welcome. 4 people have come from Goa to Chennai and are present in this webinar. So any doubt, Suryakant? Samruddhi, Shreya, Vinanti, any question, please do ask. Let me see. No other question apparently. Okay. So there is a question from Gargi. So there are no imperfections in us? Absolutely no. Because if I say there is a little imperfection, that is like physicists admitting, you know, when you put the pencil in water, it bends a little, 10%, 10 degrees. But you see 45 degrees, that is false. No, the pencil doesn't bend even by, you know, slightest angle. Therefore, the entire idea of I am a seeker, I have to do chitta shuddhi, I have to get purer, I have to reduce my anger, I have to da 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 da. All this is within what Adi Shankara calls avidya bhumi. Therefore, there are no imperfections, there is only ignorance. In ignorance, all these imperfections seem to exist. And ignorance is not a thing, it is a way of expressing, way of saying. If somebody makes ignorance a real thing, if somebody says there is ignorance, then Advaita Hani, there is Brahma, number one, then there is ignorance, number two. That is impossible. In fact, a lot of Vedanta texts say ignorance is bhava rupa, of the nature of existence. That is not right. Ignorance is nothing but mithya drishtihi, mithya darshana. It is erroneous seeing. That itself is ignorance. If you say erroneous seeing comes from something which exists, and later say, no, no, that is all adhyaropa, that is not a wise approach. There is no ignorance except error in seeing. And going with the error in seeing, there is the ego. The ego is not born from error in seeing. Error in seeing, the mithya drishti, which is adhyasa, atasmin tad buddhihi, and ahankara, they are together. They rise together and they are not there when right seeing happens. So we don't have any imperfections at all. Okay. Julia asks, Swamiji, according to that, we need to do nothing because the self is pure, transmigration is not real. Yeah, the real you doesn't have to do anything at all. You don't have to do anything at all. But then, presently, though you may appreciate this sentence, you are very much identified with you are having a problem. And therefore, in relation to that error in which or thanks to which you see yourself as bound, whether I say you need to do or you need not do, you will do. So question is whether you need to do or you need not do. Actually, you will do, you will see yourself doing, but actually upon whenever it happens, when right seeing takes place, you will laugh loudly about all this. Yeah, it's very, you have to think about it very carefully. Okay, now we'll take one last question and wind it up. Anything here? Any question here, audience? Goa audience in Chennai? No problem, no problem. Yes, no other question. So do your sadhana. I'm not saying stop your sadhanas, but even as you are doing japa or meditation, study or listening to webinar, presenting a webinar, whatever it is, no, notice, watch, question yourself. When you find suddenly, you will see the basic error, and the basic error upon being seen disappears.
Swamiji, Vasudev Rao had raised the hand and just
Somebody raised a hand?
last Vasudev Rao.
Ah, I see one Vasudev Rao, Sham Sundar. Okay. Yes, yes, please, Sham Sundar.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Yeah,
You said if avidya is there, then there will be a duality. But
correct.
when avidya goes, the
Yeah.
gnana is there. So if gnana is there, then it also becomes a duality, atma and
No,
gnana.
no. We would say that jnana, number one, is not a second thing. Atma's nature is jnana. Number two, once more, it is a limitation of language. In Mandukya Karika, Gaudapada says, Upadeshat ayam vadaha jnate dvaitam na vidyate. For the sake of instruction, Upadeshat means Upadesh for Upadesha here. For the sake of Upadesha, all this talking is done. Ajnana goes, Jnana arises, you wake up, this comes to end, that begins, all that. But Nate, when wisdom dawns, the limitation of language requires when wisdom dawns, as though it is an event on the axis of time. But Jnanodaya is not a phenomenon. It's not an event on the axis of time. It cannot be compared with a bud blossoming to become a flower, with a, what is that, metamorphosis, where a butterfly comes into being. All those are phenomena that take place in time. At point T1, they were not there. At point T2, they came into being. This awakening is a mind-blowing thing. It is not a phenomenon in time. But since we are steeped in time, for us everything is time-bound, we discuss, we talk about the self-realization also as though it is a process, but in the higher classes we negate. There is no process. Shh. Watch, stay, nothing needs to be done. Realization is not something that wasn't there at T1 and takes place at T2. We clarify all this. Therefore, we talk of ending of time. We talk of time becoming invalid. So we'll take a seminar. Next time I'll come with the time and the timeless. That's also an interesting topic. Very Vedantic topic.
Thank you very much, Swamiji.
Welcome, welcome. One question from the audience here. Yeah.
And 11 gets used.
Correct.
So what is the difference?
Correct. So Suryakant from Guruvama is here. He asks, in Gita it is said Navadvare Kurede. In Kathopanishad it is Guram Ekadasha Dvara. So why 11 gates in the Upanishad and only 9 gates? Well, Lord Krishna slightly simplified. Let's see what the 9 gates are. 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 7 genitals and anus. So 9. Now 11 involve the Brahmarandra on top of the head and the navel, which also looks like a hole. So this way, it is different kinds of classification. So scholars classify sometimes giving a place to certain factors, sometimes dismissing them. So there is no difference otherwise in the Quran. Just navel and Brahmarandra, the hole at top of the head, need not be counted. So Sri Krishna simplified the model and Sannavadvare Kuredi. All right, best wishes to all. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Hari Guru Namaha. Hari Om.
Swamiji.